I'm only going to bring this name up one time because I know how it goes, and I'm going to try and make it different to how I asked you about it last night. So in 1990, the Ultimate Warrior won the WWF Championship. It wasn't my choice.
And it damn sure wasn't mine.
But, you've talked a lot about how you didn't like him. But in 1990, you worked with him a lot when he was champion. And I just wonder, when you were working with him, were you able to make him any better than he was before? Do you think you were able to help?
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't really work with him that much. I didn't. And it was kind of like, the thing that really aggravates me, I grew up in the wrestling business, and loved it. It was like, okay. And most of the guys that we were friends with. But here's a guy who comes along, and yes, he had a great body. Okay, clap. He had a great body. He was a real muscle head. Got big biceps. And here's the thing is, but you don't know a damn thing about wrestling. You don't know how to tell the story. And he was so arrogant about it. Really, it was kind of, what really, I'll tell you who really pissed me off was Vince. Because, Vince had this idea, I think Vince thought that he could take any guy and make him a star. Well, the only way you were going to make that guy a star was if you fed him all the guys that you have that do know how to wrestle and work. And basically that's what happened.
So whenever you would be put in a match with Warrior, did you have a strategy of what you would do to kind of get through it for your own sanity?
No, most of the time it was, let's just make this quick and painless. Because, he's not the kind of guy, he couldn't do a 20 or 30-minute match. And if you remember, none of his matches were very long. And mostly what you remember about him is he ran out to the ring, and he ran around the ring, and he got up in the ring, and he shook the ropes real hard, and that was it. You'd seen him. It's over. That's my opinion. That's all he was worth. It's kind of like when you get in the wrestling business, it's like a brotherhood. It's hard to explain, but it's just how many pro football players are in the world? Oh my gosh, bunch. How many basketball players, baseball players, hockey players? But the fraternity of professional wrestlers is a lot smaller. And that's a fraternity of brothers that I always have respected and tried to, tit for tat. And when this guy came alone and just thumbed his nose at everybody like we were cow dung, and I don't know.
He did also legally change his name to Warrior.
Well, that should tell you something. Duh.
So at the 1991 Royal Rumble, you and Virgil split up. Virgil finally had enough, and Virgil hit you. You guys broke up. When that was happening, did you think that you and Virgil had ran your course together, or did you think there was still more gas left?
Well, you need to change. You need to change as you go, and actually that was not my idea, but God bless Virgil. His real name was Mike, and the thing about him was, and the discipline that it took for him to keep his body in shape like that, that's pretty tough, and so I respected him for that. But there's this no real nice way to say it. He just wasn't very smart. It's kind of like if we could have had I mean, like we finally did the thing where he, you know, he says no to me. What? You know, and I react to it, and we had that deal. If he had had any real wrestling talent, we could have had like not just one match, but 3 or 4 matches. But his wrestling skills were just nil. And so it was only a one-time go-around.
Well, because for WrestleMania 7, when it was you and Virgil, they had Roddy Piper in his corner. Do you think part of the reason they had Piper involved was to kind of boost?
Oh yeah,
the
definitely. And then the spin-off of that was me and Piper, and that was great. I loved working with Roddy. Roddy was really good, you know.
I did want to just ask you about this. At WrestleMania 7, that was the WrestleMania where Hulk Hogan and Sgt Slaughter had the match, and Slaughter was the Iraqi Sympathiser. What was the reaction like for you guys behind the scenes of Slaughter being an Iraqi Sympathiser, mentioning Saddam Hussein on screen while a real-life war is going on?
It's wrestling. It's wrestling, and wrestling isn't real. You're watching a cartoon. You know, so, you know, I think, you know, but and again, I think that for the fans, for Sarge to go that way and, you know, and be supposedly a sympathizer, well, you know, the more he got his ass kicked, the more happy the fans were. And generally speaking, that's what happened in those matches. The bad guys lose, man. I know, very well. I made a career out of it.
Well, you and Virgil had your big blow-off match at SummerSlam 1991 in Madison Square Garden, where he wins the $1 million belt. I mean, it must have been, you know, a good moment for you that you got him to have a match that people remember. Like, you know, it's not obviously your most memorable match, but it's his.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of pride that you were able to get him to a point where he could have?
Wait, do what?
Was there any part of you that had some pride that you were able to get him to a point where he could have a long competitive match?
It was never even a consideration. I mean, you just had to know the guy. Yeah, I mean, it was just, the lights are on, but nobody's home. And you know, but I'm just saying, but again, he wasn't really a bad guy, and he was just so simple, I guess. This is the nicest way to put it. But I mean, I liked him personally. I liked him, but you know, it's kind of like I wished that he had the wrestling skills, you know, because if he'd have been like this bodyguard and servant to me for all those years, and I can't remember how many years we did it, but and then turn on me and have a program, we could have had, oh my gosh, it could have been so good. But you know, it just wasn't possible, and everybody knew it.
And at the end of 1991, Vince started pushing Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels as singles guys, and that was the kind of beginning of smaller guys getting a chance to be big stars. Was that something you were happy to see, that Vince was
Absolutely. I mean, you know, and Vince had always been, you know, big guys. You know, it's kind of like, you know, and that obviously was okay with me. I was a big guy. But you know, it's kind of like, you know, and the New York territory, when it was a territory. Now, you know, once Vince McMahon took wrestling national and international, you know, it's like, you know, you're either with the WWF or you're not really wrestling anymore, because all that forced all the territories around the country to go away, because nobody could compete with him. But yeah, I don't know.
And then, you know, you end up getting put in the team with IRS as Money Incorporated. What was your reaction to becoming a tag team wrestler from being a single star for so long?
Yeah, I embraced it. I mean, it's because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over, because you know, then it gets old. So to get tagged, you know, teamed up with Mike and to have a tag team, you know, and you know, what a combination, right? The $1 Million Man and the IRS. You know, you normally wouldn't see that as a team, right? You know, I should be running from him. The IRS. Pay your taxes, you know.